Go.
What a great county we live in. Yorkshire, the biggest county in the United Kingdom. We've got the Yorkshire Dales and all that countryside, and we've got some great cities here in Yorkshire. We've got Sheffield, Leeds, and we've got Bradford. As well as that, we've got Yorkshire puddings, fish and chips, and an unusually high proportion of Olympic medalists, oddly enough. Just a few things that make Yorkshire great. Well, I've lived in Yorkshire for practically all my life. I grew up in a little village called Netherton on the outskirts of Wakefield. Now, there's a reason why I didn't mention Wakefield in my list of great cities, but that's a different story. I'll tell you about that another time. And the only significant amount of time that I've spent living outside of Yorkshire was between 2005 and 2009 when I moved down to university in the West Midlands. I moved into Roots Residences on the campus of Warwick University in 2005. And up until then, I spoke with what I thought was a very clean-cut, proper accent. An accent like the Queen's accent, or the accent of the royal family. I was a little bit naive back then. You might have guessed that. But me and my mates at school, we'd have a right laugh trying to impersonate that accent that we'd heard on Brookside, going around saying things like, "They do, don't they do?" And "I'm calling the busies." But to us, the Yorkshire accent, it was like a neutral, accentless accent. Oddly enough. But after a couple of weeks at university, I noticed something. I'd be talking to somebody, and I'd get this blank, confused expression of people. Like they didn't know what I was talking about, or I'd get an unexpected response from a question. It kind of reminded me of that scene in Monty Python's Life of Brian when Caesar's talking to the centurion and he says, "The little rascal has spirit." The centurion thinks about it and gives a kind of unexpectedly replies, "Yes, he did, sir." But I wouldn't say something like, "I'm having sausages for breakfast." I'd say, "I'm having bangers for breakfast." I wouldn't say, "I'm going to the shop." I'd say, "I'm off to the shop." But at that time, I didn't see anything wrong with that. I thought that was perfectly fine. Embarrassingly enough, 2 months into my first term, I realised what the problem was. My accent, of course. My accent wasn't quite as clean-cut as I'd first imagined. People just couldn't understand me. My floor mates couldn't understand me. And I'd be saying things like, "I've got a lecture 2:04," or "I'm stopping in tonight." And apparently it sounded really weird to my floor mates. And one thing that they found absolutely hilarious was this word that I said. Potato, or potato, or taties, as I used to call them. It would, without fail, make people scream with laughter. One was not amused, though, I can tell you. So I'd sit in my room and I'd practice. I'd try to learn to speak. It was like learning a foreign language, honestly. Saying the same thing over and over, trying to get rid of this accent that I was just completely fed up of. I'd sit and I'd say, "Potato." And then I'd slow it down like a child learning to read for the first time, trying to sound out each of the letters individually. Potato. It never sounded quite right. But I started to make a little bit of progress. My accent was always noticeably northern, let's put it that way. But I got to a point where I could go into the kitchen on my floor and I could proudly announce, "I'm having mashed potato for dinner." Okay, I never actually said that, but you get the idea. I did slip up a few times, by the way, always reverting back to my Yorkshire accent. It was like, after a certain period of time, I needed to remind people that they'd not taken the mick out of me for quite a while. But we got on, we had some good laughs. Even though I was living this kind of double life, I didn't know which picture to put up here, by the way. I'd speak in my Yorkshire accent to my friends and family back home, and they're speaking this different accent to my friends at uni. It's a bit difficult when they were both in the same room at the same time, in the same conversation, mind-blowing stuff. But I've been home sweet home for a few years now. I never managed to fully get rid of my Yorkshire accent, but at the same time I've never fully managed to regain my Yorkshire accent completely. For better or worse, I'm not sure which. But I've got a Polish girlfriend now, so everything's fine. I don't need to say potato anymore, I can just say ziemniak, and she knows exactly what I'm talking about. But I've got a new respect for my Yorkshire accent. In fact, having a Yorkshire accent's not such a bad thing after all. So I'm going to finish by saying it's alright to have a Yorkshire accent. There's no wrong with it. If you've got a Yorkshire accent, hold on to it and don't lose it. Thank you.